Thanks for tuning in to the Just Go Play podcast, where we look to develop and promote a positive youth sports experience. As always, we are available for speaking and private engagements and can be reached at info@justgoplay.ca. You can also catch full video versions of our podcast on our YouTube channel. And don't forget to visit us at justgoplay.ca. Enjoy the episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Just Go Play podcast. Today, I'm so excited to tell you I got the whole Community Revitalization Team project here with us today. And we haven't done this before, but like I said, we got the whole team and we're going to go through and learn about what these guys are going to be doing for communities. So let's start it off with the team here. Mike, can you please tell me, what is the Community Revitalization Project about?
Absolutely. First and foremost, Daryl, thank you so much to you and Matt and Elisa for kind of letting us come on here and talk shop a little bit. We couldn't be more excited about this opportunity in this team that we've kind of quote unquote assembled, right? Obviously we all know it. We've all heard it a million times. We are in an unprecedented situation worldwide. And because of that, right, we start to think and we hear about how do we get better from this, or how do we rebuild, or how do we come out better than we were before? And, and those are all really tough questions. And so in talking with our team and thinking about things, it comes down to two common themes. The reason that we need something like the Community Revitalization Project is one, there's one thing that has been taken away from everybody, whether you're 5 years old or you're 90 years old. And that's the ability to move, right? We've taken away youth sport. We've taken away PE. We've taken away school. We can't go walk around the neighborhoods. We can't go to the parks. We can't go to stores, right? We can't go walking around the downtown areas. Grandmas and grandpas and aunts and uncles can't go watch their nephews or grandsons or granddaughters play sports, right? We don't have those abilities. And then the second thing is that every single person is connected to one of the pillars that we're going to be talking about today, whether it be club sport, whether it be parks and recreation, or whether it be school sport or education. Everybody. And I don't care if you have a kid in the school system, but your neighbor might be in the school system. I don't care if you have a nephew that's playing team sports, but the kid down the street might be, right? So we all have these connections.
One sec, Mike. I got to rewind, because you guys are a bunch of superheroes. I think for our audience to get into this, I need a little bit of history on you. Just give us a little bit of your background, and we'll go through the whole team, just so you guys can get a quick intro of each other, and the audience can learn who you guys are and why, first of all, why you guys even speaking. All right. So I'm going to rewind that. Let's go with you. A little quick intro.
Absolutely. So, as it says on the intro, my name is Michael Jennings. I am currently the director of Healthy Body for an educational service provider called Athlos Education. And what I do is I support quality physical education at every level, from kindergarten up through 12th grade. And that's everything from developing content and curriculum to professional development, to online CPDUs, to anything in between, right? Strength and conditioning, programming for daily lessons of kindergarten PE all the way up through 12th grade. I've got, the better part of a decade teaching and coaching experience at just about every level. And right now, like I said, I'm helping the teachers to be able to hopefully help more students and more young athletes moving forward.
That's awesome. Let's go with Taryn next.
Great. Thanks, Daryl. So my name's Taryn, and I was added to the team because you'll hear why we sort of formed and what we're going to be doing, but there's a huge gap in all of these different pillars around communication, whether it's communicating to parents, to coaches, to teams, to organizations, to athletes, to anyone. So my background's actually, I worked in marketing, corporate marketing for 10 years, and then I left to finish studying to become a nutritionist. So what I did after that was paired my expertise and experience in marketing and communications with my passion for healthy living and active lifestyle, and really helping small business entrepreneurs, companies like that, form their communication plan. There's such a gap in a lot of these organizations having the ability to hire agencies or big companies to help them with that. But there's such a need for it because these kind of people and organizations and teams are so passionate about what they do, and they're such experts in their specific role. What they're missing is how to align on, as an organization, on what that looks like and what their vision is, and then how to communicate that out so that they can get the best response and engagement that they need. So my role really on the team is to take that experience and help communities with their communication.
Wow, that's awesome. Nate, let's get you to just quickly tell us a brief history and why you're here. Why do you get to speak?
Yeah, hi Daryl. Thanks for having us on again. Really appreciate the platform and the forum to be able to get word about this project out. So, my name is Nate Baldwin. For the last 5.5 years, I had been the lead youth sports coordinator for the Appleton, Wisconsin Parks and Recreation Department. We're a community of about 100,000 people in east central Wisconsin, and I think the significance of that work is that it was a true renovation project. It was a project that it was a program that had followed very closely with a lot of the national declines in participation. I describe it as very much the typical park and rec, very much the secondary option for families that couldn't participate in a higher trajectory program. So we were the willing backup plan for many, many families. And so the significance of the work done at Appleton was to take that program and make it proud again. It was to invest in the program quality. It was to invest in the message. It was to invest in the great qualities it had and the things that it empowered families to do. It was uniquely, one of the key messages we'll talk about is that it was uniquely positioned to remove a lot of the barriers to participation that families experience. And so we were very successful in doing so. The quality of the program increased tremendously. The stakeholder buy-in increased tremendously. Participation went through the roof. It grew by about 75% overall over the course of 5 years. And received a lot of attention as a result. In 2018, the program was named a Project Play Champion. We were an inaugural champion, and the only municipality to receive that honor. And so that was significant. And I'm also the epitome of when one door closes, another opens, and that's why I'm sitting here today. It's that, believe it or not, at the end of March this past year, I was let go from that position, despite the success, despite the growth. Not every organization embraces that opportunity to lead. And so that is very much kind of how things transpired there. Fortunately, shortly after that door closed, I connected with this group here, a group ready to do big things, a group ready to lead, and a group ready to lead the right way. And so values aligned, beliefs aligned, and here we are. So that's how I ended up in this place at this moment.
That's great. Glad to have you here.
Great to be here.
Let's go with Elisa, one of our regular hosts. What's your role in all this, Elisa?
All right. Well, my role in all this is some of the execution and implementation. So I've worked with different organizations in all those different fields that all of our team represents. And a lot of what I've done in the past is bring everybody together, work together to try to implement the strategies, the frameworks, the ideologies that we're trying to shift and change into a system so that we can actually deliver into communities. So how do I, as a executive director of a sports club, work with my school district, work with my rec leaders, work with, outlet healthcare or any other professional in the community who wants to be part of this? How do I work together so that we can actually implement this into communities? And one of the reasons that I really focus on this area is I've grown from studying kines and working on the mats with people one-on-one, then doing, small groups and group training, and then going all the way and realizing that in order for this significant position to change, where I think it was Mike saying, we don't have the opportunity to move as much as we used to in the past. So how can we change that? We need to look at the environment that we're putting these people in. And so that's really what I focus on, is the environment that we're in, and how do we adjust that environment from an organizational level as well as from the individual level to be able to implement some of these strategies. Because you can have a great person, great idea, great enthusiasm and motivation, but if you drop them in a toxic environment, they're going to get gobbled up and they're going to disappear. So how do we make sure that we're creating those nurturing environments for this opportunity to be able to really become part of the community fabric? So that's kind of my role in all this.
Wow. Awesome. Matt, wrap it up. And
Yeah, well, I'm the old owl, you know that. So
that's
I'm
why
the
I go
one
last.
that's been through everything for these young people who are full of energy. And my responsibility is to help steer us away from mistakes. And as Nate said, the barriers to implementation. You heard it all across all four people. If I have a strength, that it is taking very large and cumbersome constructs and breaking them down into bite-sized digestible pieces for general population to understand and implement. And that's what I think we've done a good job in, as we continue to explain what the Community Revitalization project offers, and putting the right people in the right places. So, we always hear about right people, right roles right away. Couldn't be more excited about this group because of the experience that each one brings in their respective area of expertise and skill sets. So I really think that that's going to be a differentiating factor. I know you're going to talk about that in a bit, but my role is just to make sure that I'm bringing the sport pillar, and we've dialed that up, buttoned that up. We've talked about that in previous podcasts, and really how we can create, quality sport experiences for as many as possible, as long as possible, in the best environments possible.
It's amazing. Listen, this is a unique group. I feel like this is a group of superheroes that have come together and want to make a difference, an impact. So let's start again. Mike, why the Community Revitalization Project? Why are you guys doing this?
Well, it's simple. It comes down to two things. And the first being that through all of this kind of unprecedented times, through all of this difficulty and trials and tribulations, I mean, it really is boiled down to two aspects. One is that the common factor that's been removed from everybody's lives is movement, the ability to move, whether it's parks and playgrounds, whether it's school and PE, whether it's parks and recreation, whether it's club sport, whether it's the ability of a grandma or grandpa to go and watch a soccer game or a t-ball game. That's not happening. People can't get out. They're confined to small places. They're not able to do the things that they normally do or that they want to do, and that we all know is so important to do. And then the second being, all the people on this call right now, and all the pillars and all the aspects of this kind of community effort, we can all vouch and attest to the fact that each person in a community is directly tied to at least one of these areas. They either have somebody in the school system, they've got a neighbor kid down the street that's in Parks and Rec, or they've got a nephew that is playing in a club sport. So we take all of this, and we know from experience, right, that if we want to get better, we can't do it alone. If we want to be better in education, we can't do it alone. If we say, and we've heard all over the place, we want youth sport to come out of this better, they can't do it alone. We know that because we've been trying to do it alone. We've been spending the last several years of physical education working by themselves, club sport working by themselves, park and rec working by themselves. And so we all believe that if we can integrate those three areas and kind of fix that problem that Taryn was talking about earlier, that marketing and communications issue, then we can have tangible change. And like Matt said, it's the right people in the right place right now. Because, I'm not naive, and nobody on this call is naive enough to say that we could do it ourselves. There are things that I just flat out don't know and I don't have experience in. And I need the likes of Elisa and Matt and Nate and Taryn. And not just for me, but our communities need it. Our education system needs it. Our Parks and Rec needs a unified approach. And that's what I think we're bringing to this table.
So that's why. Can one of you guys walk me through the pillars? you guys have these 4 pillars. Can one of you guys walk me through one of the pillars and how they're going to work? I like what you said about, everyone's been working in silos. I'm hearing we have a broken system and you guys have a solution. And, that to me is huge, because we're hearing people talk about this problem for years now, campaigns out there, and you guys know all the campaigns about trying to get kids healthy, active, moving better. And that's exactly what they seem. They're just campaigns that don't go anywhere. And there's a new campaign, it seems, every month. Can you guys take the next step, walk the audience through these pillars and how this is going to get going in these communities? So let's start with the pillars.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and pick up, and I'll speak to the physical education or the education pillar in general, Daryl, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So from our perspective, from the education side of things, we are giving as prescriptive as necessary approach to providing quality physical education and quality movement experiences within and around the school day. So our goal is to provide these meaningful movement opportunities for the holistic development of young people, right? And we're doing that through the lens of daily lessons, movement breaks in the classroom, professional development opportunities, all these kind of intangibles that we absolutely know are necessary to provide these quality experiences. And we do so from an approach of, okay, we need organizational alignment, and you will hear this from every one of our pillars. We need organizational alignment, we need disciplined project management, we need stakeholder connectivity, and we need an integrated operating environment. And so what we do is we have the ability across the pillars to be working through these kind of step-by-step processes to be able to guide and support this quality movement experience, right? So again, from the education side of things, we've got curriculum, we've got content, we've got templates, we've got the ability to support and take people through this process of developing a program that they are proud of and that they can offer to all of the students and all of the athletes in their community.
So any teacher in any one of these communities that you guys approach or work with, they can find weekly lesson plans or figure out where their kids are and start. Is that what you guys are going to be doing, helping these teachers out?
Absolutely. From an education side of things, that's exactly what we have. We have, and it's not just lesson plans though. It's the ability to, like I said, have this holistic developmental approach where it's not just movement, it's character development, right? It's all of these things that we really know are absolutely necessary life skills, right? That physical education and sport in general provides young people, but it only provides it if it's done in an appropriate way, right? Because we talk about it all the time. Yeah, physical education is great if taught correctly, because you see the horror stories of people that had miserable physical education experiences. And because of that, they've been turned off to physical activity and movement for the rest of their lives. And so we want to combat that with the redefining of PE through all of these tenets of quality programming.
Wow. Okay. So you said a lot about the educational system, and we've talked about these in previous podcast, the 4 tenets and whatnot. We'll get to those, repeat those 4 tenets afterwards, just to make sure the audience understands. But you're the educational pillar. We'll come back to you. Next pillar. Who's next? Nate? Which pillar do you have?
I'm happy to go because I think the Parks and Recreation pillar or the Community Recreation pillar really picks up where the education pillar leaves off. In that, the education piece is going to be critical for establishing a foundation of movement skill in the kids that we touch. And so Parks and Rec is kind of the natural next piece in that, like I mentioned earlier, they're uniquely positioned to remove barriers to inclusion and provide that physical, social, emotional benefit to as many kids as possible for as long as possible in a more organized team setting. It's kind of the bridge, I would say, between education piece and the competitive sport piece. You know, it's responsible for keeping as many kids in the game for as long as possible and establishing that foundation for a lifelong joy with sport. I don't know if most parks and recreations out there accept that charter as seriously as they ought to. And so I would say that's the overall goal of this pillar, is to give parks and recreations or community recreation organizations the tools that they need to deliver an experience that's worthy of the leadership position they have in their communities. It's very functional things, you know, it's everyday things. It's literally how to run a program effectively, how to build a program culture. Even before that, how to establish your values and your vision and your mission. And then making sure that the experience you deliver on the ground is consistent with that value, or with those values, mission, and vision. So this is not an exercise that parks and recreation teams go through on a regular basis. I think a lot of parks and recreations are short-staffed. They're consumed by the business of trying to keep the mayor happy and directors happy. And a lot of times, I think it was said in Tom Ferry's article yesterday, that a lot of times they forget who their clientele are. Their clientele are their consumers, their families, their participant base. And when that energy can be refocused on that participant base, some really great things can happen. So the overall goal of the Parks and Recreation pillar is to help administrators in that field do a better job of delivering a top-notch experience, one that's worthy of leadership, and then establishing a vibrant culture from there.
Okay, so you're telling me the Parks and Recs is not just going to be a drop-in anymore. It's going to actually have a program that people can come and learn how to play different activities or different sports. They're going to get exposed to different sports. Is that what you're telling me?
I think the message we're trying to get across is let's make sure that we've got lifelong sport enthusiasts from this group of kids in front of us. Let's make sure that this is not just about the youth phase. Let's make sure this is not just about the varsity phase. Let's make sure that this is long beyond. Let's make sure that we're raising kids who want to continue to play when they're well into their 40s, like this guy is. Let's make sure we're raising future coaches. Let's make sure we're raising, future officials. All of these things, noticeably, are issues that commonly come up in the articles and the content that exhausts us on a weekly basis. Well, you trace all that back, guess what you're going to find? You're going to find deficits in the youth sports system. So I think if we fix that, we solve a lot of the problems that come later. So my overall goal with this pillar is to make sure all those connections are made, make sure that we understand what the root of all of our problems are, fix it, but really with the purpose of making sure we've got lifelong enthusiasts of their sport, that lifelong joy is coming from it.
Right. Will kids get to sports sample different things there? Is that also going to happen?
Absolutely. I mean, if they're going to run a program consistent with those tenets and with those values, that's all part of it. That's inherent. Here's a real simple example of how organizations sometimes sabotage that, however. Running multiple leagues, multiple programs in the same duration of time. Let's spread those out. Let's make sure that everything is seasonal, and let's make sure that the kids who participate in soccer also have the ability to participate in basketball, because they're separated by a natural gap of time. Smart. You'd be amazed how many organizations don't think about that. But if we're going to promote the need to sample, we need to give families the ability to accommodate that, and many don't.
That's incredible. Well, if you guys can make that happen, that is awesome. All right, let's move along to the next pillar now.
I'll go next, because sport is kind of the third key tenet in the progression. And I think, what both Mike and Nate have alluded to is that when you do not have that progression, you have the silos. Those three pillars really need to be operating in unison, in similar language, common nomenclature, and an understanding, so that crossover and handoff can actually happen in a seamless manner. Otherwise, you've got chaos, and that's what's happened, is we've had chaos. So good time to reset. Now, as Nate alluded to, in the Parks and Rec, youth sports, no difference. The issues are operations issues. They're not issues in, they're volunteers, or they're just volunteers, or I just started, or I don't know what to do. And so what we've done in the sport pillar is we've really simplified that. So we've taken as Mike alluded to, you can have your choice of a very prescriptive, here's a step-by-step turnkey process that you can follow, all the way up to, I don't just want to be given a fish, I want to learn how to fish. And we will mentor and lead you through that based on your budget, based on your needs, based on your wants. So the sports sector is something that we have already had good success in. As you know, we've talked about it before, you've done it yourself, so you're very familiar with what that process looks like. But now the ability to combine it with the Parks and Rec and the physical education, as Michael alluded to, using the same process, the 4 tenets, using some of the same words, making sure that we're on the same page, really helps a community plug and play. And that's really what we want, is to remove the confusion, the chaos, all of that stuff that we see all the time. And we want to remove that and really get specific with how we can do that, which kind of leads over to the next pillar, which is Taryn and communications.
So the sports one, everything is like, so all the groups are going to be communicating. So you're talking the educational people they're going to be in line with what you guys are doing with sports, like same weekly, this is what you guys should be doing, or this is how you guys are training. You guys are evaluating people the same way. Is that what you guys are saying? So everyone's going to be at the same place in terms of evaluating students, or same mindset with all of the pillars.
Yeah, that's underpinning all of that. That's the overarching goal, is a continuum. So see, the idea is a continuum. You start in what is quality daily physical education? What is a quality Parks and Rec experience? What does that look like? How can we help people create that? And then driving into sport, what is I hate to use the word new normal, but let's use it. We need to create a new normal. We've got a great opportunity to do it. So we want to then continue that continuum pathway right through to competent, confident, connected young adults, parents, coaches, business people, right through. So when we talk about cradle to grave, which often gets thrown out there a lot in campaigns and talks, what we've really done is taken a good first step at operationalizing it.
Well, this is a good segue into the last pillar of communication. Oh, Mike, you got something to add?
Yeah, if I could, before we get into the communication piece, I just want to kind of build off what Matt just mentioned. Is kind of, we've all been around a situation where a sport coach has said, oh my gosh, I just wish that my athletes had this or had these abilities. Or a PE teacher was just saying, man, I wish that your club sport coach knew what we were doing on a regular basis. Or I wish that your Parks and Rec experience wasn't so bad, right? All these like just complaints back and forth, and that keep people in those silos that we talked about before. And so another overarching kind of goal between this is to allow everybody the understanding that these 3 pillars are being run in a quality manner, and with the same overarching themes of let's provide the best experiences possible to get people to play as long as possible and have the most fun possible, right? And that's what we're all working towards. And so just imagine, if you will, a community where all of that is happening, and imagine how geeked everybody would be about these experiences, right? And that's what we want to get to.
100%. Nate, you want to add to, before we get to communications, what seems like it's going to put this all together? Nate, you want to add?
It will. That really will connect it. But I just wanted to add one point. You asked the question about how we're going to connect all these and how they're going to work in unison. And I think I don't want to be dismissive of this point either, in that the group that's assembled here, the 5 of us, we talk about the importance of shared values and beliefs in the organizations we hope to influence, but that's also a very strong connecting force here within this group, in that, we're all operating off a very, very strong set of shared beliefs and ideals and what a quality sports experience ought to look like. And so when we're each influencing our own particular pillars, there's going to be some natural connectivity that comes from that. At least that's the hope.
That's awesome. So now we got to hear how this is all going to get put together. Communication.
Amazing.
I think your job is going to be huge.
I think I bit off quite a nice chunk here, Daryl. It's going to be great. So what's great about this is you've heard all these three pillars, education, parks and rec, youth sport, there's underlying operation issues that need to be resolved. So once we have those resolved, then there's now a communication issue. You could have an amazing program, let's say a hockey club or a school or a community, but if you don't know how to internally and externally communicate that, you're going to run into a bit of an issue because nobody's going to know about you, or if you're not aligned on how that messaging is. And, you know, we've talked about this team here is aligned on our values and our beliefs, but as an organization, if you're not, then you're going to have all these mixed messages going out to different people. So I like to think about the communication pillar also as that additional layer of structure to give you the freedom to focus on the quality experience that you're giving through that pillar that you're focusing on. So it has two layers, internal and external communication. One is aligning whatever the organization is doing. So whether you need to learn how to lay out your brand values and mission and positioning so that all the stakeholders are aligned, that's communication. It's operation and communication working together. Then it's taking that and building it into communication that will relay to external, whether it's parents, teachers, athletes, students, there's that piece. So part of communication is giving you the structure around it, the templates, the tools, and helping also bring all these three pillars to the table working together so that a community is now all of a sudden stronger and more adequately built to grow.
Will there be a platform that people can all communicate on? You know, is there going to be some sort of platform?
Yes, there will. We're going to be, and that's what I think is what's so special about this is you have people who have passion and expertise in all of these different pillars. And, you know, Elisa's also worked with all of them. So we brought this collective together to take that expertise and build the strongest, best, highest quality frameworks, programs, services that we can possibly provide. So when you work with one of us, you know, you're getting the knowledge of the five and the experience across everything.
Wow, and that's the big benefit of you guys all coming together as a group. Now, Elise, after listening to all these guys talk, you got the biggest job. How are you going to implement this in communities? Like, how is this going to get implemented? Like, there's got to be a leader, and like, how are you going to go in these communities and sort of get these guys started?
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. You know, we can all talk about this in these big philosophical ways of wanting to go into community and wanting to reshape. And this is nothing new. We've been doing this pre-COVID. We know there's been a problem. We've all been trying in our individual pillars as well as collectively with different groups here and there. How can we address improving the health of communities, improving the activity of communities, of the individual, of the organization? How can we have consistent messaging? So these are all been questions that we've been, you know, working on over the years. So none of this is new. And I think you hit it exactly, like it needs to be implemented. And something that Matt always says is the plan need not be reinvented, it needs to be implemented. And so that's what we're trying to do is everybody here has great experience and expertise in their pillars. And so how do we pull it together and implement it? And I think a lot of what we're trying to do is there's two ways that we're focusing on the implementation. One is that mentorship and support. So each person here is a dedicated representative for their pillar. So they're going to be working with whoever the organization is, or the individual, or the community group that they're focused on in their pillar. They'll be working directly with them. There's a lead with that organization, and then they have a mentor with one of us. And so they work together. And one of the things that they really focus on is measurement. How are we measuring our progress? How are we measuring our success? And really taking that from a periodized approach. I think a lot of the people on here work in, you know, the kin world where we look at periodization and we look at how we assess things. And we talked about assessment in our last podcast. If you're not assessing, you're guessing. So we're looking at doing a baseline assessment of the organization, the community, where they're at, especially with everybody's frameworks. We have checklists and we have some pieces in place to look at how do we assess where our starting point is. From our starting point, we're going to benchmark what our goals are for each quarter and annually. So we're looking at hitting those goals and we're making them manageable. We don't want them to be something unrealistic. We need to focus on SMART goals and then working together, I'm helping with some of the process management around these different projects. And then each individual has their experience. So we're focusing on that single pillar approach first, and then joining together with the other pillars that are working on this. We talk back and forth about going community-wide versus single pillar approach. We can go both ways, but I think there's a lot of success that we're going to find focusing first on the pillar approach and then connecting the different pillars. So once Nate is working with Parks and Rec and gets them going, and everybody working with Taryn, I want to really highlight the important concept around communication and messaging. We have to have consistent messaging across communities. So when Taryn is working with Nate, she's also working with Michael and Matt in their pillars. So when those pillars do eventually sit at the same table and start having a conversation, they're speaking the same language. They've got similar goals and values. They understand what our long-term vision and plan is. So it's not going to be coming together and going, yeah, I don't really buy into what you're doing, so I'm going to keep doing it alone. Because we know we have to eventually get to this place where we're all working together. But getting there, we're going to look at working with the individuals with that consistent lens across the 5 of us. And then when we do pull them together, they're going to be able to have that consistency right from the get-go. So that's the plan. We're going to run into all kinds of bumps in the road, all kinds of things out of our control might happen. But I think we've got a good head start on how we're going to achieve this. And really, we're looking for motivated individuals and organizations that want to be part of this. So we need to find those people who are motivated and want to be part of this, and we're going to work with them, and we're going to support them to the end.
Well, Matt, you want to add to that?
Yeah, because through Elisa's work in the implementation, one of the things that she has brought forward and Mike has created is a progression. So, it's a very learn, live, lead progression, and we don't go past number 1 until the community lead is fully up to speed and comfortable and confident in delivering what they're delivering, and then we can go to the next phase. So they are all it's a progression. So this is a lot, seems like a lot, and what we don't want to do is what everyone usually does, is overwhelm people. And so from our experience in collective impact, we know that doesn't work, and we'll take them through that progression. And then number 2 is they have options. So you have options as a community: good, better, best. And again, as Elisa said at the end of her explanation, it really depends on the readiness of the community. It really depends on the readiness of the leadership in the community. So we're not kidding ourselves in that communities are going to call us tomorrow and they're going to be dialed in and everything's going to go smoothly. It's a process. It took us a long time to get into this problem, as you've heard from everybody. It's going to take us a little bit of time to get out of the problem, but that's why we're here. And the last thing that I want to mention through this whole thing is, now that we've gone over all the pillars and Nate touched on it, is this expands beyond the capacity of the 5 people on this call. Our goal, and I can speak for everybody and will, is to create as many Nates in the Parks and Rec space, as many Michaels in the physical education space, and also leverage the like Nates and like Mikes and like Elisa's and Taryn's that are there too. So we're not coming in here waving the flag saying we're going to put it at the top of the mountain and we're the be all and end all. All we've done is taken years of experience in collective impact, and we are going to be better than what we are right now. So we're moving from 0 to 5, and then we'll just keep progressing with the support of everyone to make that a 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 all along the way.
Wow. This is $1 million idea. I'm telling you.
Got some cash? You want to throw some cash at it? Because we'll take that.
I don't have that cash.
Want to sponsor some communities?
What you guys are going to be, I just sense it. You guys are going to be good at is $1 million execution. Because when you just said there, Matt, makes sense to me, because when you guys were first talking, I was like, this sounds big. And for the group here to do all this, how are you guys going to do this? So it's a mentorship program. You guys are really going into these communities and mentoring these guys on how to do this. You're not just saying, listen to me, I'm, Michael Jordan style, I'm going to carry you guys on my back. You guys are going into these communities and you're going to teach them, as you said, how to fish instead of giving them a fish. Taryn, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think what's really amazing, we're sitting during COVID, all sitting at home safely in our houses. I think what COVID's done is given us the opportunity, and communities and every single pillar that we've talked about, the opportunity to rebuild themselves. we've all had to take a step back. We all have to stop doing what we've been doing because we've had to adjust to the new norm. So what's great is we have this opportunity to rebuild. And I think when we're talking about, Daryl, you know, this $1 million idea and all of that, I think what's even more important is we go in and help any one of these pillars in any community, and the impact is so much greater than any price tag. All of a sudden you're giving people the foundations, the frameworks, the education to make a larger impact on the lives of so many people. So, you know, when we're thinking longer term impact around kids having the confidence to stay in sports or building confidence in who they are as a person, that translates in their future to their professional life and to their personal life and to the economy. So, you know, while we're sitting here talking about us as a team and this business, I like to think holistically about how we're going to actually impact the world through movement, sports, physical activity.
Wow. I got some questions now for you guys. So now we've gone through this. Don't you think you guys going in are going to disrupt the people that are there already? Like the education system, they're going to be like, who are these guys coming in here? Or the Parks and Recs, who is this guy coming in here telling us how to run things? We've been fine. Like, how do you guys disrupt what's going on and sort of come in there and show that you're not here to do it for yourself, you're here to help them? How are you guys going to get around that? I don't know who wants to answer that.
I'll take the first kick at it, and that's John Maxwell's leadership. So he talks about the 25, 50, 25 rule. 25% of people are going to be on board with what's being proposed because they're going to need help and support, and we're in desperate times. 50 people are going to be a little bit undecided, and 25 people we couldn't taser into thinking differently than they've always thought. We're not going to spend time on the 25% that think they've got it all figured out, nor are they probably going to connect with us. That's not our wheelhouse. It's not who we want to invest time and energy in. We're really interested in the top 25% that say, hey, listen, we need to do something for our community. We recognize it. It is a good opportunity, like Taryn has talked about, like everyone has talked about. It's a good opportunity to reset and establish what we want our community to look like from here forward. And those are really the leaders and communities that we want to deal with. Anyone else have anything to add to that?
No. Nate?
Yeah, I'll build on that too, that I think Matt's spot on in that, you know, you can think about this more in a microcosm even. I'll take you back to an Appleton example of my own, is that after we got the Project Play recognition back in 2018, in that 2 years of time since then, I've had 30 plus communities from around the country get on the phone, shoot me an email. These are believers in other communities that already have said, we love what you're doing there. We believe in this too. How can we do that here? And so we've already been, I think all of us on this call have already been doing that in some informal ways. You know, and a lot of times it comes down to some practical applications, but it also comes down to just building up confidence. It comes down to building up, leveraging your encouragement to say, yeah, if you embark on this path, you can get there. And so I think we're taking that basic concept and we're formalizing it. We're making it more intentional. We're making it more strategic. You know, and it's going to depend on leveraging, as Matt said, those champions in other communities that are ready for it, but need that mentorship, as you mentioned earlier.
Okay, so you guys are only going after the willing. I get that. Elisa, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, this is a really good question, because a lot of people have this where, you know, say they call us and they hear us speak. And, oh, you know what? I think what you guys are saying is great. Come on in and talk to us. And you go in and you talk to them, and then they kind of sit back in their chairs when we talk about improvement, and they go, well, you know what we're doing? We're already doing a lot of really good things. So, you know, I don't know if it's fair for you to come in here and say we're not doing good things. And I want to be very, very clear. We're not saying that by any stretch. We're not coming in here to shame anybody. We're not coming in here to you know, disprove or not acknowledge the good work you are doing. Because the people who are going to call us are the ones who are already interested and have maybe tried some things in the past, gotten grants, tried activities, hired people with this kind of mentality. There probably are pockets of really good things going on. What we're trying to see is connecting those pockets together and elevating them to something bigger. This needs to be big. You mentioned it, Daryl. This is a huge problem. None of us should be arrogant enough to think we got this. Not even ourselves. We don't think we have all this. We need to work with everybody else. So we're not coming in here saying we have all the answers. That's been said by everybody. We're not coming in here shaming you guys, saying you haven't done anything. We're going to come here and fix everything. We're not saying that. We're saying we're going to come and we're going to work together, because this needs to be both ways. You guys have expertise and experience that you're bringing to the table. We have some as well. When those two collide, we can do all kinds of great things if that willingness is there to be better. And I think everybody, no matter what your field, what your occupation, what your level is, everybody can be better. And that's all we're trying to do, is how do we go from where you are today to where you want to be? And that's really what our goal is. And so we're, like these guys have said, we're trying to work with the people who are already looking towards how can I be better? Not the ones that are standing there saying, we got this, we're good. Because I've done this work around the world. No one has this. No one. People are doing great things.
You're right.
Nobody.
I think you're right. Taryn, did you want to add one more piece on that?
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of what Elisa was saying. So I think what's the big thing now for us is, who wants to be the first community to inspire the rest of them to change?
Exactly. Oh yeah. That leads to the next question. How does a community get involved with you guys? If they were like, I'm sure there's going to be people after this call emailing me, how do I get involved with those cats? How would they do that? And what does that look like? Do you guys just all fly in there, private jet? Just kidding. Fly in there and set them up, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so
I'll let Taryn answer the how they get in touch with us, because that's her area of expertise, and then I'll weigh in a little bit on I think you're asking the costs and all that stuff, Daryl. So I can. I
was waiting, because I didn't want people to turn this off yet. I wanted to wait till the end. How much?
So I'll answer the first part. So Daryl, to the first part, they can reach out to us on our website at rebuildthecommunity.com. Anyone who knows us can reach out to us on social media, email, etc. They can reach out to us on Just Go Play as well to get in touch. But rebuildthecommunity.com, fill out a contact form there, and we'll get back to you.
That's awesome. So let's get to that crazy question.
Yeah, so Daryl, as much as we'd like to give you the hard cost, it really depends, like we said, on what the nature of the community. So what's the nature of the request? We prefer, obviously, if somebody comes forward and wants to represent all three facets or champion all three facets. But the reality is, someone may just come in and say, hey, I want to make my hockey club better. I want to make my Parks and Rec club better, or I've got one school or one class that I want some support in. So basically what we've done is we have broken down each individual pillar. They're all consistent, so they're all the same price. It's a very low priced entry based on the realities of post-COVID. And our goal is to be the conduits. And again, we keep saying that. So we're not trying to hang around and be the people that people call all the time. Hey, what do I do next? What do I do next? We really want to be the conduits to success. So the price points really depend on the community needs, the community readiness, the funding sources. Is it a grant? Do we need to help communities get sponsorship, which we can do? We have done, we're prepared to do, we're set up to do. What kind of grants are available from government grants? Does someone in the community want to be a champion of this in their own communities? We've already had those conversations. There's some great companies and organizations who really were looking to campaign our way to the other side. And I think someone said it earlier in this conversation, behavior change is not a campaign process. It's not. You don't change behaviors by running a campaign. We try because we're inherently lazy and it's easy and it makes us feel good when we check the boxes. We rolled out this campaign. Now, why isn't everyone doing anything? So that's why our mentorship and leadership are important. So we've broken it down basically into hourly costs per mentor based on that community's needs. So to give an overall ballpark average, it would be irresponsible because it really depends on that conversation with the community. But we're all here to say that it is not going to be ridiculously overpriced given the landscape that we're in, and B, we've also got some supports and can help communities and leaders and champions be creative based on our collective experience.
Mike.
Yeah, I just want to kind of take that one step further and think about that what Matt just said with kind of the mindset of what Taryn mentioned earlier is the overall impact that we hope to have and that we truly believe we will have is so much greater than any amount of cost that we could be. Because I mean, think about it. Let's pick our poison, right? Are we talking sedentary behavior? Are we talking obesity? Are we talking kids dropping out of sport before the age of 13, right? Are we talking nutrition? Are we talking, anxiety, depression, whatever it may be, right? All of these things can be answered through quality programming and this community revitalization project, right? We can do it. The idea, we're a prescribed world right now, where if there's an issue, we throw pills at it, we prescribe this, that, and the other thing. But prevention is so much better than prescription, right? Always. And we have the ability to kind of get out ahead of all of these issues through this kind of unified approach. And so to me, that's the big push. That's the big important factor behind all of this is we can make so much bigger of a difference than any price tag.
And the accessibility, like to me, what I'm hearing, guys, is the biggest thing is if more kids have access to this stuff, like we're going to get more kids, as you guys say, playing as long as possible in the best environment possible, as long as possible. So, let's start to wrap it up. If you guys, for me, my takeaways right away is, I've been fortunate enough. I've been a school teacher. I've been in the education. I've been in the sports world. I've been in the Parks and Rec. Basically, that's where I learned how to play basketball. And I didn't know. Someone said, "Where'd you learn how to play basketball?" And I couldn't think about it. And I was like, "Wait, Parks and Recs." Guys used to beat my butt in basketball. A coach came and showed me how to play a little bit. So I can see the bigger picture and how if these guys were all on the same page, in a community, how this would be huge to quality sports experience for kids and make it affordable. That's the other thing. If it was an educational system and the Parks and Recs, like that's my biggest takeaways. And my first steps would be, if you're out there and you're listening to this, you should look into this program. The Community Revitalization Project is something that should happen all over the world. And again, I'm biased. I might be biased because I know some of you guys and the work you guys have done. And it's a group of superheroes that have come together to make a huge impact. Do you guys have any other sort of takeaways, first steps for these people? Yes. Elisa.
Yeah, good job, Daryl. You summed it up nicely. You do a really good job holding all of us together and capturing it all to make the pieces that we're all talking about, put them all together, make them simple. So thanks for that. I want to add one of my first steps out of this is ties to what we talked about last time with the 5 C's is culture. We are building culture. And so that's the goal of all this is how do we get these pillars individually as well as working together as a whole to reshape or revitalize the culture of our communities. And we want that culture to be an active one. We want that culture to be a healthy one. So again, going back to the 5 C's, that one that we talked about so much last time was culture. That's what we're really focusing on. So for all the listeners, for anybody who hears this, I want you guys to think about what kind of culture do you want to have, one, with your organization, whether it's a sport club, whether it's your school, whether it's your home life, whether it's your Parks and Rec world. What kind of culture do you have there and what kind of culture do you want there? And then looking at your community as a whole and thinking, well, what kind of culture do I want in that community? Because that's what we're really trying to address. That's the long-term 50, 100-year-old goal that we're trying to get at. But that's where we're starting today. And so what is the culture we're trying to bring in?
That's huge. Any other first steps, Matt?
Yeah, so for Michael and Taryn and Nate, we always leave with first steps. I mean, I don't think we shared that, but we always finish off and wrap up with first steps. Mine are going to be tactical, so I'm going to cater to FOMO and ego. We're looking for the first followers. We're looking for the first communities, as Taryn said, that want to be prepared now, work on the business instead of when you're in the business, that want to be prepared now to hit the ground running post-COVID, because this will end. We will find a solution. The timeline, we don't know yet, but it will happen. And we will need to go back to some sort of semblance of quality daily physical education and parks and rec and youth sport. That's just undeniable. We can't avoid it. So we want to know who is ready. And if they're ready, they contact us on the website that Taryn alluded to, and we can start that process.
Put that in the show notes so if anyone can see that. Any other guys, first steps you guys want to add? Yeah, Mike?
I think it's important for listeners and for anybody who might be interested to understand that doing it individually or attempting to do it individually is, one, extraordinarily difficult, and two, just hasn't proven to work for anybody yet. We've got a group of people that can support another group of people. We can make a difference. I cannot, me cannot, but we can. And I think keeping that in mind, you don't have to go it alone. You if you see a need, we're a group that can help.
I like that. That sounds like Ali. You got to turn me to we. Taryn? Oh, Nate?
Yeah, I'll add my final thought on that. And I think it builds off Mike's comment fairly well. I think the reality on the ground in a lot of communities is that parents and athletes are hearing, when it comes to sport and movement, they're hearing a constant run of conflicting messages from the different organizations that represent sport and physical activity in their communities. I think the overarching goal of this project is let's bring those messages into alignment. Let's make sure that instead of fighting for the same families and fighting for the same kids, let's empower those families and empower those kids to be lifelong advocates of sport and movement. And I think with the collective experience we're bringing in here and the different pillars we're approaching, it's a comprehensive approach to bringing all those conflicting messages into alignment within a community setting. So I know that's a big concept, but there's actionable pieces that will, step by step, allow us to get there.
I love it. I love it. And interestingly enough, all of these pillars, like we could have talked about each pillar for just one podcast. And I think we gotta, there's so many conversations that can come for the future podcast episodes. So you guys are not done. We are going to bring you guys together because I want people to really understand. And I think this is the biggest project we have going. And
yeah, so
should be number one.
Daryl, if I can say my first step, and this is kind of how we started the podcast, is let's get moving.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just go play.
Just go play.
Let's go play. So guys, thank you. People out there, if you guys are listening and you like this, please share this with anybody, your friends, your community, your parents, your coaches, organizations. Okay, we need more people, okay, with this type of attitude towards quality sports for kids. And this is real change, guys. And I'm happy that you guys had the time to come out today. This is going to be huge. I'm so excited for your guys' future and where this is going. So on that note, just go play, everyone. Thanks for showing up.